Americans' purchasing power. Gas prices have soared to a nationwide average of $4.49 a gallon from $2.98 just before the war began at the end of February. $4.50 a gallon for nearly all of May. Bernie Bennett, Washington.
On Wall Street today, stocks finishing mixed. The Dow was off 118 points. The Nasdaq charged ahead 312. The S&P gained 45. More at townhall.com.
The following is a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
When I was feeling the stress of too much credit card debt, I looked at two different options: debt settlement and debt management. They may sound the same, but guess what? They're not. Debt settlement seemed like a quick fix, but I found out it would destroy my credit, create tax headaches, and hit me with huge fees. They actually told me to stop paying my bills. No way, not me. Then I turned to a debt management plan developed by the team at Trinity. They worked with my creditors, lowered my payments, reduced my interest, saved me thousands, and paid off my debt. And Trinity is a Christian company, which is important to me.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
My name is Heather. Please forget debt settlement and remember Trinity Debt Management.
1-800-990-6976.
Rescuers tried to reach 7 villagers trapped inside a flooded cave in Laos for the 7th day, with difficult terrain and weather impeding their efforts. There's been no contact with them since they became trapped. Klaus Rasmussen is a senior diving instructor who's assisting.
The biggest challenge is that the access way down there is very, very tricky to navigate. This mining area they're using is a natural cave where they've now been digging away the soil and hunting for gold. And the water then has made the whole passageway that they normally walk very, very unstable.
According to rescuers, divers have navigated about 330 feet into that flooded narrow cave. They're also working to pump water out of the cave to aid this rescue operation. The villagers entered the cave in Sesambon province back on May 19th. News and analysis at townhall.com.
From the KSEV Weather Center, tonight expect cloudy skies and high humidity with a thunderstorm arriving late. The low will be 75. Tomorrow will not be as warm, but it will remain humid with periods of heavy rain and the possibility of a thunderstorm. Watch out for flash flooding. The high temperature will reach 79. Tomorrow night will be cloudy with a chance of a thunderstorm and a low of 71. Moving on to Thursday, anticipate humid conditions with the chance of a thunderstorm. The day will start off cloudy, but expect the sun to break through at times in the afternoon with a high of 86. With the KSCB Weather Center forecast, I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Jason Caterina.
This program is brought to you in part by Ability Tree Experts. Ability Tree Experts, Houston's leading tree care professionals.
Call 281-441-4179.
At Idea Public Schools, we believe every student can achieve more. More confidence, more opportunity, more possibilities. With challenging academics, dedicated teachers, and a culture of high expectations, students are prepared not just for graduation, but for what comes next. Nearly 100% of our graduates are accepted to college every year. Because when students are challenged and supported, bright futures follow. Bright futures begin at Idea Public Schools. Learn more at ideapublicschools.org.
Sponsored by Idea Public Schools.
My friend Louis Flory and Ability Tree Experts. Spring is here and summer just around the corner, which means it's time to deep root fertilize your trees in addition to spraying for insects and disease. Let Ability Trees help maintain their value and repair all damage. Fed and pruned tree will be less susceptible to wind damage and uprooting. Caring for the beautiful and valuable trees on your property that you can't replace should be done by experts. And the experts I use, it's very clear. It's Ability Tree Experts and Louis Flory, my friend for over 40 years. Gosh, this guy is the pro when it comes to taking care of trees. You know, pruning is important for the health of your trees, and pruning limits resistance to spring storms and allows the sun and fresh air into the canopy. Trees can be in distress several months without showing any signs, so don't wait to protect your investment at 281-441-4179, 281-441-4179, or visit their website at abilitytrees.com. Right now, Ability Trees is giving a deep root feeding with every tree pruned. Ability Trees, Houston's leading tree care professional.
Where should I begin?
Can we talk about this?
Say, what are you trying to say?
Beyond the usual controversial talk.
Blah, 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 on and on and on.
Over there.
One, two, cha-cha-cha. 1, 2, cha-cha-cha.
Prepare yourself.
Okay.
For Craig.
Okay.
Preparing a mighty new spectacle here.
Articulate.
stimulating. Hits you right in the... there you go.
We start becoming a team right now.
This is the Craig Collins Show.
Lord Jesus, oh God, no.
Start talking. Talk fast.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Now your host.
He's a good man.
Craig.
That's right. It is the Craig Collins Show, KSEV, KGBC, the voice of Texas. So much to talk about, and yet only one topic really feels like it's valuable tonight. I will tell you, part of me is tempted to just blow off some of Joe Pags' show, stay on the air, and tell you what the actual results are here in Texas. I don't think I'm allowed to do that. I probably would have to get approval from certain people in order to do that, so that's not going to happen. But I'm tempted to. I kind of want to. Some of the early polling results that we saw, this was this morning. Texas was covered all over the place, national news media, as far as the Paxton-Cornyn race. I know there are other races happening today, but that's the big giant one that everyone's talking about. I have a little bit of Fox News audio that I want to play of them talking about this, and I'm going to try to get, if it's possible, before the end of the show, any kind of early exit polling information, any of the data I possibly can for you, because I do think it's valuable to have it for a variety of reasons, obviously, and I am expecting Ken Paxton to win and John Cornyn to go away. I heard Chris X joking about how Chris Salcedo talks about John Cornyn. That is interesting meta as far as our hosts talking about each other, and now I'm talking about both of them. I will tell you that in being here just a year, I think that it's obvious what Ken Paxton, the politician, means to transformation within a political party, within the Republican Party on a national scale. I don't necessarily mean that specific to Texas, although Cornyn has failed tremendously here in Texas at doing the hardest things. That is why people like Chris Salcedo are as passionate as they are, the way they are, and Chris X more measured in some of his discussion, although he said he voted for Paxton. I do think people who want to see change want to see Paxton win here. And I don't believe the narrative that it will be any harder for Paxton to win against Talafrico, Talawacco, whatever you want to call him, the crazy man who is trying to be the senator out of Texas. Unless the voting demographic here, unless the population has been altered by a lot of people moving from liberal places that aren't like me. I moved from a liberal place. I moved from Chicago, but I'm very much a Republican conservative voter, not a crazy human voter who's going to vote for people like Talafrico. So again, I'm very curious as to what actually will happen when we get to the Senate race in November, and also, of course, paying quite a bit of close attention today. Here's a little bit of what Fox News was saying this morning about this race.
Here we go. Cornyn versus Paxton. And the reason why you have this runoff is because of what happened on the 3rd of March, all right? Here were the results. Really good race between the two men at the top, but neither achieved 50%. Cornyn edged out Paxton by 26,000 votes. But look at the bottom candidate. That's Wesley Hunt, congressman, right?
We all know about this.
He had about 13.5 percentage points. Where do his voters go? There's
Paxton.
some polling suggesting they go to Paxton, but you really don't know until the vote is taken. And we will find out later tonight. A couple keys right now. You always have to think about Houston.
Yeah, you do.
Number one in terms of population at 254 counties. A lot of people living down there. You can see how the vote was split pretty evenly between Cornyn and Paxton. The other area.
By the way, hold on. Pump the brakes. Pump the brakes for a second, sir. Actually, that's interesting when you look at Houston. 38 to 37% was the vote, with almost 20% going to Wesley Hunt. I am a Wesley Hunt voter. Some of the callers who call into the show, also Wesley Hunt voters. I think a vast majority of us would have voted for Paxton even before the Trump endorsement, if we voted at all. There were some people who really didn't want to vote at all, and I was one of those people. And actually, to be candid with you, I didn't vote today, not because I didn't want to, because the thing that I claim never happens did happen. I actually hosted back-to-back radio shows starting at 7 o'clock this morning, our time, which is when the polling places opened. So I was on the air for 6 hours, not here, other places. And then I was working here all the way until now, and I have a show that goes until 7. So it's a 12-hour workday for me, 7 to 7, and I won't be able to show up and vote. Although part of me felt that maybe I sit this out Not that I actually encourage anybody else to do that. I think you should vote. I very much would have wanted to, and I'm not sad that I didn't vote early because I don't really like early voting. I don't really think we should do it. I don't want to crap on something on the radio and then, go do it. I'd rather not do that. And this never happens to me. It never winds up being the case where I just have a 12-hour workday in the exact window. I contemplated this. Here, I'll tell you this, and then I'll move on for my own self, which you may or may not care about. I contemplated having a last segment of the show be like a in the can thing, meaning I replay something I've done before so I could leave a little early and make it to a polling place to vote right before 7. I really heavily thought about that, but I decided that you matter more, that the audience matters more than my one. And if Paxton loses by 1 vote, we can all blame me. It can definitely be my fault because that's where my vote would have gone. Other things out there that I saw, I thought this was interesting. This was, according to some, a stunning admission by Fox News. Texas Republican Senator John Cornyn just admitted that Democrats in Tallarico will successfully be able to hammer Texas's likely Republican nominee. This comes from a Democratic social media account. And I'll play the audio of what they're claiming Fox News said. Fox News, who has been in love with Cornyn and definitely part of the political establishment for a while. I heard Cornyn on Guy Benson's show today. That was weird. Most of this station, the actual people who work here under the umbrella of KSEV, like Salcedo, like Chris X, like myself, we've all said to varying degrees that we're Paxton voters, or Paxton, I've endorsed Paxton. I won't actually get to vote for him today, as I mentioned a second ago. So it's so weird for some of our national shows, Kilmeade and, of course, Guy Benson, to so heavily advocate the other way while also not living here. That's the unique component to hearing these people that do these national shows that air in Texas saying what they think should happen in Texas and not having the grasp of what people here in Texas actually think. And being someone who's filled in nationally other places, I'm actually on the radio, another place right now, filling in on The Dana Show. The Dana Show will be coming back to our radio station, by the way. I think that next week is the debut of the show. I think it's June 1st, in which Dana returns to KSEV, a station that she was on for a long time. We're very excited about her return. That would be Monday, literally just a few more days from now. And then, boom, she'll be here. And I think I'm filling in a couple times early on in June, which will be fun because it'll be heard here and not those other places from 2 to 4 o'clock, the Dana Lash Dana Show. But anyway, I just think it's interesting to hear these people say this stuff and be so far removed from our state. And actually, the only reason I'm really not going to stay late, kick off another show after me that would start at 7 o'clock, is because Joey Pags is on from Texas, and I assume will actually break the news as soon as they know what the results are in the primary race today. As soon as that information is available, since Pags is live on our station, I'm guessing that he'll break in and provide that coverage, even though he does a national show that airs at all different times. That is a weird thing, too. Last thing. I don't mean to harp on this stuff. I don't know how many people even care. When you do something on a national level that airs all over the clock for the affiliates, they tell you what you can and can't say breaking news-wise because it won't be breaking for the vast amount of affiliates who listen to it not live. Like, for instance, I did the Dana Show hours ago today, and it's airing right now here in Houston at a different station. It'll air from 2 to 4 o'clock here. That's still not live, but it's closer. And it's weird. There's some things you can't say because you don't want them to be ruined by the people who listen later, and they obviously can tell it's not live anymore. I'm guessing Joey Pags is going to break that rule to tell you the breaking news when it happens. But here, let's play this. This is Cornyn, Fox News, and something that Democrats are sharing on social media because Democrats are cheering for the idea, the concept, the belief that Paxton will be harder to elect than Cornyn is. And you tell me the reasons why. We all know the reasons why, but here's a little bit of Cornyn.
Ken Paxton's flaws and the baggage he brings to the general election is going to be exploited to the fullest by James Tallarico and by Democrats. James Tallarico raised $27 million in just the first quarter.
Hey, I'll stop it right there. Your flaws would also be apparent to the everyday voter here in Texas. And Tallafrico, whatever you want to call him, is the kind of person that I think just can't be elected in Texas when you actually hear about the things he says and does, which so far the race hasn't done. Yes, Tallarico will focus on Paxton. Paxton will also focus on the insane person he's running against. And actually, case in point is probably a Ken Paxton interview he did on the Benny Johnson show, where they talked about Tallarico and the crazy things that Tallarico says. I have a little bit of that audio as well.
That once you're done, once you make good, clean work of John Cornyn here, you're going to move on to a guy that thinks that God is non-binary, uses he, she, her, their pronouns, which is like, I don't even want to say it. It's so blasphemous. It's so blasphemous. You're going to move on to a guy that thinks that Jesus is pro-trans, that Jesus is that Mother Mary is pro-abortion, and you're going to move on to fighting a demon is what you're going to do. Like you're moving on to now like fighting a man who is anti-Christian because his theology is literally anti the teachings of Christ. And so how are you gonna handle that? How are you gonna roll with that?
Before I answer that, I just want to encourage your people that are listening to go out and vote. They have till 7 o'clock.
Yeah, they do.
Yep.
You got
to take
45
care of this
minutes.
election first. So take a friend, take a family member. Do not ignore that we need your vote.
Nice,
you can
Ken.
have great polling. Everything looks good. But if you don't go vote, you don't take your family with you, don't take your friends, then we don't win. So please go vote. To answer your question, this guy, I mean, I can't even believe the Democrats put him up in Texas. They have this love affair with this guy. The reality is he might fit California with his radical leftist views, his anti-religious views, anti-Christian views. They're not. I know he's claiming to be some type of Presbyterian minister, but his views are antithetical to the gospel that I've studied. And I don't care how he tries to twist that around, which he is twisting it. Almost every issue fundamental to our Christian faith, he opposes by twisting it around and saying, well, I'm a Christian, but this is how it actually is. Don't believe thousands of years of tradition and biblical teaching. Go with my nuanced version that's up to date.
I love that Ken Paxton also calls it a nuanced version, because that is what Tallarico is trying to sell. He's trying to sell a version of his interpretation of the Bible that does seem like actually intentionally wrong and blasphemous and all the things you'd call it. But more than that, just so gross in how you try to prey on people's actual sensibilities, their actual belief in something, in order to still claim that you're within that circle, within that group, and not far removed from it, which is what Tallarico actually is, a little bit more from Paxton.
And that I have adopted.
Is Texas going to go for that? I mean, this guy's way more radical than Beto O'Rourke. I mean, this guy's way more radical than Colin Allred.
Yep.
Right? Like, he's way more radical than Jasmine Crockett. I mean,
Also
when you
true.
actually boil it down, for sure.
He would be like an AOC type candidate. He is as far left as we can go. And I think if Texans can hear his views, we just got to get those views out. So, starting tomorrow, we're going to start getting those views out. I know that my super PAC has already put out an ad, just clips of him saying weird things. And it starts off by Donald Trump saying, this guy is really weird. And then it goes through like 6 or 7 different clips of him saying really weird things.
Yes, and Tallarico says really, really weird stuff. And he couches all of it in claiming that what you're hearing is someone that actually believes the same things you do and just has come to a tremendously different understanding than any of the rest of us could possibly come to. And that's why I say it's actually gross. That's why I say that I think the real fear, and I heard Jimmy X call into Chris X's show and say that, if Tallarico were to win Texas, that's the end of days kind of scenario for us. Let's pack it up and go home. I agree with him. I just don't think that's possible. I guess I pray that that's not possible, that Tallarico could truly win here in Texas, because he's basically counting on 2 things, James Tallarico. The first thing he'd be counting on is the stupidity of the people who vote for him, that he actually wants to convince believe similar things to him when they evidently do not. They very obviously do not. So he's hoping for a lot of dumb people to vote for him. And then he's hoping for a lot of other people to want to spite the Republican Party by voting against whoever the Republican politician is. And so I agree again, and this is something that Jimmy X actually also said. And he'll actually be co-hosting the show on Friday. Jimmy X will be here as a veteran, but also just a co-host to sit in and chat on the air for an hour about all kinds of things. And he'll be part of the Veteran Voices segment, which will actually feature a family member of his, which will be a kind of cool moment. And we'll get to that later on this week. But I agree that it's the end of days kind of thing if Tallarico can somehow win this state because of the stuff he'll actually do, the things he'd actually want to implement. I want to play one piece of Tallarico audio that's going viral, a, quote, small sample size of the psychotic beliefs of the individual who's running against either Cornyn or Paxton based on what the results are this evening. Here's a little bit of this.
Did they teach you in Sunday school that Jesus Christ himself was a radical feminist? The American flag is such a complicated symbol for most of us. God is non-binary. You can't call yourself a Christian and reject the stranger seeking asylum at our southern border. Our trans community needs abortion care too.
What?
Modern science obviously recognizes that there are many more than two biological sexes. In fact, there are 6.
What?
Prophetic voices like Jesus have helped me reckon with my own whiteness. Our southern border should be like our front porch. There should be a giant welcome mat out front. We are trying to fundamentally change the politics in this state and in this country.
You are.
No need to sit and cry over, your whiteness or your masculinity.
I'm not sitting and crying over any of that stuff. I'm actually very much happy to not sit and cry over any of that stuff because of how insane all of those things are that you just heard him say. This guy is trying to be the senator from Texas. It's amazing, to be honest. And this echoes what Paxton actually said a little bit ago, which is how could you possibly put this person up for election in this state as the Democratic Party has done? Like, it makes no sense. And yet it's the reality we're in. But anyway, today is it. It's primary day. It's results day. Hopefully we'll know relatively quickly who the winner of the primary is, because hopefully it's not a close race. A part of me believes that's actually going to occur, that it's not going to be close, that it is going to be a slam dunk destroying after the Trump endorsement. I know a lot of people don't believe that. I'm one of the people that does. So we'll see. We'll see how my predicting capabilities go here in Texas if the people who voted for Wesley Hunt, and I heard, I'll say one other thing that Jimmy X actually said when he called in, because I agreed with it a lot. That's why I paid so much attention to it. If you don't like the individual that Paxton is as a human, and not as a politician, if you think he's effective, but you don't really like him as a person, you hold your nose and vote. I think there's a lot of people who will do that. I think there's a lot of individuals who will say, for whatever reason, whether it's because of President Trump or not, that this is the best option for me because it's not more of the same. It's not more garbage of failure at the highest levels when things matter most, which is exactly what Cornyn is. There are multiple moments where he's failed. And people say he votes with Republicans 90% of the time. Check the year, because the people who tally this stuff say it's 60% some years. And honestly, when a Democrat is in more control, a Democrat in the White House, et cetera, it gets as bad as even lower than that. So the voting with Republicans only really happens when Republicans are in power, and then it's a vote of convenience. It's not a vote of standing and fighting. And if I were to give Paxton credit for anything, if you're deciding right now on your way to the poll who to vote for with a half an hour left before they close, Paxton has fought a lot of difficult fights, and he's fought them irrelevant to how hard they were to win. He didn't care going in, it seemed. He decided as the Attorney General to go ahead and pick up the sword, fight this fight, gets impeached by the House and acquitted by the Senate, likely because of his willingness to fight some of those fights, if you're looking for a political motivation for people to harm him. People who do that sort of stuff who don't care about the potential fallout of an action they take and take it anyway are people who are targeted a lot. President Trump certainly knows that firsthand. So I think that it's another interesting reason to think what exactly we do, what exactly happens, all of that sort of stuff in the near future, in the next few months, after we know who wins tonight. But all right, we'll take a break. A lot to get to, a lot to talk about. This is the Craig Collins Show, KSEV. I'm making sure that I have the break set up correctly. Okay, there we go. KSEV, KGBC, The Voice of Texas. More coming up in a bit.
Hi, I'm Tommy Mello with Garage Door Doctors. My mom recently moved into a new home with a builder-grade garage door. Noisy, flimsy, and not built to last, so we're fixing that. Mom, you're my hero. When I was growing up, she worked 3 jobs just to save our house.
And helped you build this company.
Now I'm giving her a beautiful new garage door that's built to last. The garage is 40% of your home's curb appeal. When it looks good and it works great.
Life is good. Thanks, Tommy.
From repairs to upgrades, call Garage Door Doctor today.
You know, where we go in life matters, and what we do matters, and we know that taking the wrong road won't produce the best outcomes. Hi, I'm Kathy with Baker Mortgage, and we want you to take the right path when it comes to your mortgage. You know, we live in a world of information overload, but always consider the source, and these are not generally going to be from your big bank or a random offer that comes across your screen. Remember, you're always going to get a better deal on one that you go looking for than one that comes looking for you. You need to deal with somebody who gives a you-know-what, whether or not you're happy in the end. At Baker Mortgage, we do it right. We haven't been around for 68 years because we're lucky. We don't sell CDs, insurance, or anything else. We just provide a great mortgage experience. Isn't that what you're looking for? Call us at Baker Mortgage. I promise you'll be glad you did. We're at 281-313-MOVE or go directly to bakermortgage.com.
Equal housing lender. License number 263213.
This is Kevin O'Hara with O'Hara & Company Real Estate. Our country's founding fathers drafted a document that is the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their powers from the consent of the governed. My friends at O'Hara & Company Real Estate, we believe we're at a precipice in time where we must take back our country. We must stand up for our freedoms or lose them forever. Please don't sit idle and let it slip away. Don't let anyone force you to do something you choose not to. As JFK said, if not us, who? If not now, when? If you're looking to buy or sell real estate, give O'Hara & Company Real Estate a call at 281-373-3393, 281-373-3393, or look us up on the web at o'harare.com. I'm Kevin O'Hara. God bless America, and God bless Texas.
This is the Craig Collins Show, KSEV, KGBC, the Voice of Texas. Certainly one of the things that a lot of people are focused on, actually beyond the state, but certainly all over the place, is the race between Paxton and Cornyn. Even my mom was actually texting me during the break asking for my opinion because she's watching stuff. She lives in Indiana, but she's watching stuff and people talking about the Texas race today. So we'll certainly cover that. Hopefully, right at the end of the show, we'll have some information about some of the exit polling and whatnot right before the polls themselves close. So I'll provide that to you. There's another story. This is totally off the beaten path. But I thought this was a really fascinating thing to talk about. This is a story off of Fox News talking about kids who are willfully repeating 8th grade because it benefits them athletically. What I mean by that is it gives them an opportunity to get NIL rights, whether it's in high school or more likely in college. That's name, image, and likeness money because they're more developed. They spend a year getting a little bit older. So as a freshman recruit, they are at the maybe pinnacle of where they'll be athletically, at least before development of certain skills and things. You actually hit your peak in athletics in your mid-20s. But from a biological standpoint, these kids are physically stronger than some of their peers because they allow themselves to get a year older. It's a real story. I'll play a little bit of audio from Fox. I probably won't play the whole 2-minute coverage of the thing, but I'll let them repeat the thing I'm telling you so that I then contextualize it a little bit, just because I thought it was a really crazy thing that's really happening. Here's a little bit of this story.
Growing number of middle school athletes are tapping into the red shirt trend in delaying their start to high school. Our senior national correspondent William Lajeunesse is live from our West Coast newsroom. We're all interested to hear this. William?
Go ahead, William.
So, Sandra, did your parents ever say, you better get your grades up, little lady, or you're going to repeat 8th grade? Well, now some 13-year-olds are doing it by choice, hoping to get into a better school, a bigger scholarship, or more NIL money.
Yeah, no, it's really, really crazy. And again, he goes a little bit further, even interviews some people about their own personal decision to do this. I'll play a little bit of that audio, too. It's got like a random video of a kid working out that I'm going to skip because I don't really see the value in that. But here we go.
Students that are currently in 8th grade, and they get an additional year of middle school to delay their start of high school. Once you start high school, you have a 4-year clock, academically and athletically.
Michael Hatcher started the Elite Performance Academy at a public middle school in Orange County, California.
Of course it's
Kids
California.
can come in person and have access to 2 separate classes. One is a speed and agility class, and also a strength and power class.
Look, here's the thing, and this is the question I'll ask, and I don't know what decision parents would make who are put in a scenario where their kid is asking them to be, not academically, but athletically held back a year to provide themselves a better opportunity in high school and then a potentially better opportunity in college. The vast majority of college athletes don't do anything after that. That's the height of the level of athletics that they play at. And the fact that potential, and I'm not sure that it would actually be life-changing for many kids, but life-changing money could be a component of an NIL deal. And this is the way I talked about it on the Dana show, because I brought this up on the national show I was in for as well today, is it's not like a national TV ad that these kids are thinking about. Some of them are thinking about a local deal. They go to a school where they're a pretty decent recruit, maybe because they were held back an extra year and they were able to physically develop a little bit more. They get a deal when they come in from someone who's a booster tied to the school. Maybe they know like a local car dealership or something, and they wind up making money off of their athletic career in college that they wouldn't make otherwise, and they won't have the potential to make after college is over. It actually made me think about Livy Dunn, or Liv Dunn is her name too. Rather famous person. I'm sure still making a bunch of money as a social media influencer, the girlfriend of a very famous Major League Baseball pitcher. But she made a crap ton of money while she was doing gymnastics in college through those name, image, and likeness deals. And then once that was over, she's not exactly like an Olympic level performer in the world of gymnastics. So a lot of those endorsement deals typically would end for people like her. Maybe they continued because of her level of fame. But I just thought that was interesting because she made like millions of dollars being a gymnast in college, that you can't continue that athletic career after college is over. So I wonder what parents would do if you're asked this. And there's one other thing I'll throw out. It's a caveat. And I don't mean to vilify the parents. That's not my intention. There's a lot of parents who absolutely support their child. Their child is pushing themselves to be the best that they can be at a specific sport. They have dreams that they want to accomplish. There's a lot of parents that are just facilitators of that dream to whatever degree they're capable of doing it. But there are other parents, these people, who might push their child more than their child wants to do certain things, to participate in sports to a level that maybe the kid doesn't want to do it. And I think that there's a negative in that atmosphere, especially if the parent starts thinking that there might be some money to be made by the student in college if they're performing at a high level as far as, a certain sport goes, in a way that they probably can't perform at after. So I am uniquely kind of concerned that money might cause a lot of people to make a lot of decisions they wouldn't otherwise make, and that is definitively, to me, a bad thing. But it's a choose-your-own-adventure as far as who's actually doing what, because I don't know, and I'm not going to pretend that I can paint with a broad brush and say every parent of every successful athletic kid is pushing them, because that's insane and not true, or the opposite, that every single kid that is incredibly successful athletically is just doing it all on their own and parents are just doing what they're asked to do. I think there's a mixture of truth in all of it. I still like the NIL situation. I still like that college athletes can make money off of their name, image, and likeness. And I know this isn't a sports show, by the way. I just can't help it. I still think that that's appropriate. I just wonder how much it's changed things at all levels of athletic careers because of the truth of it, and that there's such a finite amount of time where money is something you might have access to. You don't even definitively you don't even definitively have access to it. I've done too much radio today. Until you actually get the offer and sign the paper and the check comes in, but the belief that you could. All right, moving on. Some other things out there. You know what? We're getting a call. We'll go ahead and take this call. Caller, what's your name?
Hey, Chris.
Craig.
Hi, Craig.
That's okay, buddy. Is this Bart?
Sorry about that.
That's okay, buddy. That's all right. There's a lot of Chris's at the station, so I'm not offended.
I was an 8th grade counselor at a middle school in Aldine,
Yes.
and I had a Division I quality athlete named Derek Fletcher
Cool.
that they put into a summer program for Algebra 1 to get a credit so he'd have more hours to take athletics to fit in his schedule to graduate.
Wow.
And the coach, Bill Smith, called me furious because he didn't want him taking algebra in summer school because then he'd be struggling because they don't teach it very much in depth when he gets to high school.
Sure.
So it's really funny how it becomes a major issue at that age.
Yeah, so you're saying that the coach didn't want the kid to be in summer classes because it impacts eligibility, and the argument from the coach was also the quality of education wasn't that good.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because then when he went to Aldine, he had to take higher level maths, and he wasn't really that well prepared just taking the algebra course in summer school.
See, I think that that's interesting, Bart, that he had the extra component of, I think the quality of education will be better if you let the kid wait and then do it a certain, like, I think that argument is different. Some of these kids that are featured in this Fox News story, fully capable academically of moving on, choosing solely to do it based on athletics. It sounds like in your case, and a pretty good athlete, that there was a decent argument to be made that it was in the interest of the person and not just the interest of the athletic organization that he was, playing for. So I would agree with that more. But it's interesting what you said too. Yes, that all these variables come into play because of how different the world is now athletically for kids than it was years ago.
Well, he was a monster of a football player. He's like 6'7" and 300 pounds.
Wow.
And he got a full scholarship to Baylor. He ended up playing in the NFL.
That's amazing.
But you could see them thinking that early, we don't want him suffering with his grades so he won't be able to play for us and get a scholarship.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Well, thank you for the call, Bart.
Oh, one more thing.
Go ahead.
Livy Dunn.
Yes.
She's doing just fine. She's on the Sports Illustrated swimsuit modeling.
I know.
She's been doing promotions for several brands.
Baywatch.
Yeah, she's on. So I think she just changed into a model.
Oh, no. Yeah, I wasn't worried for her, but fair enough. Thank you for the call, Bart.
All right.
That's hilarious. Yes, Livy Dunn will be on the new Baywatch. There's a new television show similar to the old show that has a bunch of social media and otherwise famous young people that are all relatively attractive. The women are ridiculously good looking from what I've seen of the Baywatch show so far. The funny thing is, out of all the promotional elements for that show, and if my wife is listening, yes, I said what I did. I'm just being honest, honey. The funny thing I've seen is I don't know how good any of them act. None of the promotional material has actually been a scene that anyone performed in Baywatch. Not that I think Baywatch originally was a show about good acting, but I think it's uniquely different to pick people who aren't really actors or actresses at all and put them in roles on a TV show and hope for the best. Like Pamela Anderson, not that she was winning any sort of Oscars or anything like that. She was an actress. That was the career she was in, and people like her who were on the OG version of the show were actresses. Not so much of the people on the new version. I don't even know when that version debuts. But I love that Bart said she's doing okay. She's also dating Paul Skeens. So the very famous, very talented Major League pitcher who will be doing just fine for the rest of his life. And they've been dating for quite some time, so who knows? I think for a lot of reasons, Livy's going to be just fine. But I do find that funny, again, that the amount of money she made in college compared to what she's making today, it's probably less. I'm going to assume it's less. And then if you use that same template and apply it to people who make way less money than she did in college and no money after, you can see why some parents might be pushing their kids to spend an extra year getting an education at a lower level in order to give themselves more athletic eligibility. One other thing I want to play before I take a break. We'll come back for our second break. We'll do some silly stuff, which I often like to do on the radio. And then, as I said, I'm going to try to give you some exit polling right before we sign off the air, right at 7 o'clock, to let you know what people are predicting as far as Ken Paxton and John Cornyn primary runoff thing that's happening today. And I intended to vote, and I can't vote because I worked literally 7 to 7. I worked a 12-hour day today. So that almost never happens, and I advocate for same day, a vote on election day. Don't vote before. This didn't really help me out this time around. But I want to play this. This is J.D. Vance talking about fraud and the amount of fraud that his task force has uncovered. This is not the kind of audio you're going to hear a lot of places. Most places are going to skip right over this. They're going to say it's boring, it's political, whatever you want to call it, all that crap. So they'll just ignore it. They're also ignoring it because it's a tremendous win for this administration. Outing fraud to the level that the Trump administration has, uniquely good for all taxpayers, all Americans, terrible for fraudsters, and it seems a lot of politicians, but something, again, that there's no way to spin negatively, so a lot of places will simply just ignore it. One of the biggest reasons I'm choosing to play it. If it actually does play, which it's supposed to play here any second now.
In just 2 months, we exposed billions of dollars in benefits that had been stolen from the American people. We referred over $22 billion in fraudulent small business loans back to the Treasury for collection. We deferred more than $1.3 billion in fraudulent Medicaid reimbursements that were coming from various states, particularly California. We put a 6-month hold on enrollments for new hospice and home health care providers because so many of the newer hospice providers were not actually providing hospice services, but were just focused on fraud. So we're going to cut that out for a little bit and try to get to a place where we can actually certify that the people providing hospice services are actually providing those very necessary and important services. We recovered taxpayer funds from the $135 billion stolen after the floodgates were open in the immediate aftermath of COVID.
Do it!
We have found $6.3 billion in suspected fraudulent government contracts, which were mostly awarded during the last administration, and that has stopped. And finally, we blocked $60 million in student aid fraud that should have gone to young people trying to get an education, but instead we're going to fraudsters. And
that is billions and billions of dollars. 135 billion, 6.3 billion, 60 million for the students that wanted student loans. I love that that was the smallest number, but still a win. And again, no way to negatively shape this. So the only way that mainstream media can deal with a story like this is to just ignore it. So we have to talk about it. We have to play it. We have to be willing to address the elephant in the room, which is the wins. No, the Iran war is not over. I hope that it's over soon. There was stories about how it, or reports that it might end over the weekend, and then it didn't. And likely it didn't because Iran says one thing but is unwilling to sign a paper that actually acknowledges the thing they're claiming they'll do. When there was a story that broke that it would be, I think, something like 30 to 60 days for an actual agreement to be made about the enriched uranium between Iran and the United States, whether they'd give it to us, dispose of it, whatever they do with it. When I heard that, I knew it wasn't actually going to be a deal. And some people were using it as a criticism of Trump, saying he was giving in to get the war to end. President Trump went out there and said he doesn't want to rush this. He wants us to wait until we definitively know that what's happening is the correct ending out of this thing because, darn it, it has to end well. Now that it's started, it has to end correctly. It can't end with no win at all because then there was no point to fight it. And I don't think Trump's the kind of politician that will allow for that to be the end result of this, especially when I've said this so many times. I feel like I don't need to say it more, but I'll say it again because it's still a topic in the news. Right now, waiting benefits us and not them. The longer we stall a negotiation and leave everything blockaded, the longer we tighten the screws to what Iran thinks the reality of their new life is, and inevitably, hopefully, they play ball. All right, we'll take one more break. We'll come back. As I said, I always like to have some fun, so we will certainly talk about some sillier topics. I have some pretty fun audio that I found that I'd like to play, and then I'm promising the entire show, and I'm waiting, kind of sitting and watching to see any sort of exit polling and who they predict will win. There is an interesting story. I will put this out there because it's making national news now, and we heard people calling in from certain places in Fort Bend County that election machines were going down. And that has now been a story that's reported a lot of places. And some of these places where people would vote, heavily Paxton areas, where voting machines broke. They were taking conditional ballots, provisional ballots, as we were told by some listeners. Other people were still capable of going through the electronic process of voting. But definitely a worrisome story to hear today that in some places close to Houston, in suburbs that would heavily vote for Paxton on Election Day, they were having election issues. So that's certainly something to pay more attention to based on whatever the inevitable result is of today. I'm assuming it'll be a non-issue because the person we think will win in Paxton will actually win. But we'll see. It certainly would be something that I'd be paying close attention to if I was part of the Paxton campaign, and some of the initial numbers coming in don't make sense to me about what is, I assume, a heavier amount of support for him on Election Day. All right, quick break, a lot more. This is the Craig Collins Show, KSEV, KGBC, the voice of Texas.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm, and Chuck McDowell definitely not an attorney. This is Chuck. If someone talked you into buying something really silly and you want to get out of that silly little thing, my advice, get the facts. Call me and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit absolutely free. Inside, you'll learn how timeshare works and all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your free exit information kit. 800-909-9696. 800-909-9696.
Plumbing emergencies never happen at a convenient time. Usually they happen on the weekends, holidays, or while you're away on vacation. I'm Richard Sod, president of Nick's Plumbing. When you find yourself facing a plumbing emergency, call the licensed and experienced professionals at Nick's Plumbing and Sewer Services. Nick's Plumbing has been Houston's first choice for all your plumbing needs since 1979. Our experts can take your most difficult plumbing issues and fix them fast, fix them right, and usually for less than you'd expect. Nick's Plumbing and Sewer Services is the right choice for any plumbing job, from a leaky faucet, whole house repipe, or a complete sewer line replacement. You can count on Nick's Plumbing to do the job right. With over 40 years in business and over 150,000 satisfied customers, Nick's wants to be your plumbing company. Nick's Plumbing offers free estimates and free second opinions. Call Nick's Plumbing and Sewer Services, 713-868-9907, or visit us on the web, nicksplumbing.com.
MPL 38548.
Call Nick's Plumbing today. We're on the way.
If you have roof problems, you can sure see them when it rains. This is Deb Tejada from Tejas Roofing. If you see a leak, call me immediately, 281-251-0304. I'll send over the Tejas Roof Repair truck.
That truck has everything our experienced crew needs to fix your roof, right then and there.
The Tejas Roofing crew has been working together fixing leaky roofs for 15 years.
It's not a pretty truck, but it has everything we need to get the job done. I kind of like the way it looks.
Most roofing repairs cost less than $500. Why? Because we find the cause of the leak and repair that leak. We won't try to sell you services you don't need.
And we'll fix it right away because everything we need is in our truck.
Don't put off fixing a leaky roof. Call me at Tejas Roofing and I'll send over the truck. 281-251-0304. When you think of roofing repairs or a new roof, think Tejas Roofing, your Houston roofing company. 281-251-0304. That's Tejas Roofing, 281-251-0304.
A breast cancer diagnosis can turn your world upside down. But your Houston Methodist team assures you they'll use the latest cancer research and technologies, collaborating to treat and remove the tumor and reconstruct your breasts, restoring symmetry, sensation, and your sense of self. That's the difference between practicing medicine and leading it for you. Houston Methodist, leading medicine.
This is the Craig Collins Show, KSEV, KGBC. That was weird. We had one more one more clip that was supposed to play and it didn't play. But anyway, that's fine. This is, as I said, the Craig Collins Show. Thrilled to be with you. Lots of stuff to talk about. Not finding any real exit polling, anything that's valuable, at least so far. The belief is that Cornyn would have done slightly better in mail-in balloting, but Paxton will do better in voting today. But exactly where we're at in any of this, still not finding it, which annoys me a lot, because if I don't get any of it until right after the show is over, I'm going to regret the fact that I'm not trying to bump any amount of Joe Pags. But listen, Pags is in San Antonio, and I think he's very likely to continue to give you these results. If not, maybe I'll be sitting here in front of a microphone, and if I don't hear anything from Pags and I see some of these results come in, maybe I'll pop back on air for a second and yell some of those out. I'm not sure, but we're waiting to see. Several races taking place today as far as Texas primaries go. Chip Roy's race, interesting too, if he's someone who will win or lose. The reinvention of Chip Roy has been odd, to say the least. He's someone that at one point a lot of people liked. Now I think a lot of MAGA politicians, if that's what you want to call them, or MAGA voters, don't like Chip Roy anymore, mostly because he said bad things to us, to people who voted for Trump at one point. But now he's trying to pretend that he's actually a MAGA politician, which seems insane. But all right, let's play some fun stuff. Then we'll get back to the serious stuff. I saw this was actually national news a couple places. A police union here in Houston is being accused of harassing a man online and calling him a snitch because he reported vehicles doing donuts. And this video, this audio has gone viral now on a national level. So I figured I'd play it. This is an old news story to a lot of people here. And I definitely want to defend the police because we are all human. But it's Hammond Brown, the dude who's accused of reporting on the police for doing donuts. This was in the snow when it snowed here over a year ago. And the police union president, Doug Griffin, saying, come on, man. Well, no, actually saying, by and large, that people need to be held accountable, even police officers. But a little bit of, why you snitching on us, bro? Here we go.
Yeah, look at HPD, man. Look, they out here doing donuts, man.
We're human. We like to have a good time just like they do. He took it a little serious. And
they are human.
Things may have went off the rails a little bit.
Just leave me alone. I don't want no problems.
You can't do what he does in public and then turn around and call out others.
It's really messing with me because y'all posting all my business on social media. It's like y'all doing a lot to me, and y'all really getting me scared, like, because I ain't did nothing. I ain't did nothing wrong. Y'all was in the wrong.
They know what they did was wrong. It's been taken care of. For the public to be concerned about complaining on police officers, you can complain all you want. We don't go hunting people they complain on police officers. That's not what we do.
What I would have done, since this story is now making national news, and I figured I'd talk about it here, what I would have done if I was Hammond Brown, the guy watching police officers do donuts in a parking lot in one of the very few days in which it snows in Houston, Texas. This is coming from a guy who lived in Chicago for a long time and has done my fair share of donuts. If I see the cops doing it, I drive my vehicle into the parking lot and do a few donuts too. Why not? Why don't we all get involved in the same thing? And if I get in trouble, then I might complain, but you guys were doing it too. I'm kidding as I say this. I would not snitch on people and shoot a video and then complain about it. I do think there's a lot of people who just want police officers to be in trouble, and so they do whatever they can to find those avenues to do that. No, it's not allowed. You shouldn't be doing donuts in a parking lot as police officers or anybody else. But again, it rarely ever snows here, and by and large, I think the police deserve the break that they don't get enough of because of how uniquely hard their job is, especially now that so many people are obsessed with it. And I think a lot of people are obsessed with finding mistakes they believe police officers made, even if they didn't make them. But anyway, that's a story that was all over, so I figured I'd play it. This is another thing I found interesting as far as viral audio goes. This is the current CEO of Hooters. His name is Neil. He's telling you that the company is rebranding. Hooters is changing. They're going to be more family-friendly. I can see some issues with this potential plan to rebrand the company. Here's a little bit of what the CEO, Neil, said about how far Hooters went in a direction he didn't want them to go.
They had taken the Hooters girls' uniforms, over-sexualized it, I call it. The shorts almost turned into thongs. And frankly, that was never the intent of the brand. This was created in 1983 as an escape or an oasis. You know, it's a beach community. It's a beach-themed type of thing here in Clearwater. So
it's a beach.
That was very upsetting. And of course, today on social media, when you see pictures of people wearing the uniform, it appropriately affects other markets and affected us. So we just wanted to rectify, get the brand back to its roots. I call it a re-Hooterization.
He calls it the re-Hooterization to make it more family-friendly. Here's the problem with this. If you go too far away from what you currently are, not that I'm saying that's necessarily a bad thing. I'm not fighting for Hooters to be a place where you feel like people are wearing thongs, as the CEO says. But if you go too far away, you're going to lose some of the current customer base you have. Now, when you do that, you have to make sure you bring in new customers. And I think it's going to be really difficult for anyone to believe that Hooters is becoming a more family-friendly establishment because they're told that's true. I was picturing a guy trying to convince the missus, not myself, but somebody else, that they should go to Hooters with the kids for a meal because it's family-friendly now, and how likely that was to be a hard no that gets looked right at you. I don't think you're going to bring in a new customer base by saying you're going to attempt to do something because your brand is already too tied to what it's been for a while. You can't just reinvent the wheel. You'd have a better time creating a brand new company that has no connection to the brand of Hooters and saying that that's a business that the CEO of Hooters wants to run as a family-friendly establishment. They tried to do that for a little bit. They called it Hoots, and it didn't do well. And so now they're doing this. I also find this funny in a different way. there are establishments here in town that compete with that brand for a similar type of food and experience. And most of those places have like a lingerie day. So I don't know that the other places are as concerned as Hooters is becoming family friendly. And so I think you're going to wind up with no customers, which it appears that some of those restaurants actually right now are struggling with getting a lot of people in the door. I just don't think I think there's a certain point, this is the way I should say it, for brands where you can't rebrand. You can't change who you are. So you're better off going away, becoming something totally different if you really think the current concept isn't working. One last thing from the silly stuff out there, or just the less serious might be a way to say it. Jack Osborne was talking about his father, Ozzy, and how they're going to be using projections and, quote, a digital form to allow Ozzy Osbourne to keep performing at future concerts. I hate this thing. I hate the idea of this thing. Jack says that it's something his father wanted and that fans of Ozzy Osbourne would like to see this. I think this is a way to monetize someone that's no longer with us in sort of a gross way, and also potentially a way to not accept the fact that you've lost a loved one. But here's a little bit of Jack Osborne talking about digital shows featuring a digital Ozzy Osbourne.
It's going to be so tasteful what we're doing. It's not going to be lame. And it's really complex what we're doing. This isn't just like hooking up an image of my dad to ChatGPT. This is some like high level technology that we're going to be working with, and it's going to feel very real. Like, it's really cool. And it's something that I think my dad would be into because we actually talked about it before he passed. So yeah, I know he'd be into this.
No, I don't like it. I don't like anything about it. And the fact that he says it's going to be realistic, I think that makes it even worse, to be honest to me. The last thing I'd want to go to is a show of someone who's no longer here, and it seems as though they are here in some sort of digital way. I just think that's unhealthy for the family, and I think it's bad. And look, if Ozzy Osbourne wanted it and fans want to go to these concerts and see a fake version of a person performing, fine. Like, it's America. You do what you want to do. You make your choices with your money. I don't know how that's any better than like listening to a CD at this point because it's not real. If you ever go to a concert, I go to any concert that I go to see someone perform live and in person. And one of the things I typically judge is if they're as good of a performer live as they are recorded. And almost nobody is, but I just don't get any part of this. And I'll go a step further, and we only have about a minute left, and then the show's over. And I have no exit polling. I intended to give you exit polling. I'm not getting any updates in the places I was hoping to get them before the end of the show, but I'm very much hoping that Paxton wins today. I think that a lot of the data seems to suggest, and the polling information we had going into today, that Trump's endorsement played a huge role in allowing Paxton to be above and beyond where he might have been expected to be. So I think that Paxton will easily win today, and then I think he should easily win in November, even if people think he won't. But with 20 seconds left, just to say it out there, there's other digital forms of keeping someone in your life that's no longer here that more and more companies seem to be selling, like an AI chatbot that would be a family member that you've lost. I just don't think that's mentally healthy. I think that would be bad for you, bad for the family, bad for all involved to do it. So that's probably the biggest reason I'm anti this stuff. But all right, that's it. That's the whole show. As I said, good luck, Ken Paxton. More information on what happened tomorrow. This is the Craig Collins Show, KSEV, KGBC.